We spoke to two individuals who were at the rally when this incident occurred, and they both believe this video now circulating on social media is getting the attention it deserves.
I think you get rid of Narcan, and when people overdose, you let them die.
That's Glastonbury firefighter James Stanley, captured on video this Sunday during a Black Lives Matter food drive. Al Mayo, a lieutenant with New London Fire, was at the BLM rally and heard the exchange.
I was standing right by him with my daughter, and he made the comment he made. I was obviously immediately appalled by it.
Organizers say Stanley was at the rally along Main Street as a counter-protester. It was during a heated argument about opioid overdoses in Glastonbury with Black 860 member Ivelisse Correa that he said this.
I think you get rid of Narcan, and when people overdose, you let them die.
You're a first responder. That's not the way, even if you're joking, that you're supposed to respond to these situations. I wouldn't trust him around a friend or family member who is having an overdose.
Correa was the person recording the video. She says she lost a family member to an overdose and believes Stanley should be held accountable for his words.
I lost my cousin to an overdose January 2nd, 2018. If that was the person who responded, I'd be pretty pissed, so.
Stanley apologizing for his comments Tuesday via Facebook, stating in part, "I would like to apologize for my comment regarding Narcan on May 2nd. It was insensitive and inappropriate. I, too, have suffered loss to substance addiction and understand how hurtful my words were. This comment in no way represents my character or conduct as a 20-year veteran of the fire service." Lieutenant Al Mayo saying Stanley's stance on Narcan is not shared among majority of firefighters.
His actions are reflective of his own feelings, and he needs to face consequences to what he said. 99.9% firefighters will disagree with what he said, myself included. It doesn't reflect the Glastonbury Fire Department or any other fire department out there.
The Glastonbury Fire Department also releasing a statement reading, "The department is aware of a personal comment made by a member of our organization yesterday regarding the use of Narcan. The individual's comment is upsetting and by no means a reflection of those who dedicate themselves to protecting the residents and visitors of Glastonbury. This is a personal matter and there will be no further comment."
I do hope that this is a learning experience for him. I wouldn't feel safe with him, and I believe he's broken the trust of the community at large.
And Fox 61 did reach out to Stanley via social media, but did not hear back yet. In Glastonbury's Nia Maldonado, Fox 61 News.